Hey everybody, today we're going to review Robert Kirkman and Paul Azaceta's Outcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're going to review Outcast by Robert Kirkman and Paul Azaceta. Yes, I read it on my iPad. I bought these trade paperbacks a long time ago, so I don't have the compendium in hand to read that, and I didn't buy it just for the video either. But I read it. I had all these on my iPad, and I was like, let me read these. So there are 8 volumes. I read the entire series, so that's what we're going to go through. But I like this series. I think this is pretty good. It was a show briefly on Cinemax, I believe, for 1 or 2 seasons. They're not streaming anywhere. Maybe they are on Cinemax Plus or whatever the heck that service is called. I don't have that one, so I can't vouch for their quality or anything like that. But what I can say is that Outcast is a very interesting and engaging story. Over the 8 volumes and 48 issues, I was pulled in. Like, this is a book that I could not put down. And I think that's, there are a lot of Kirkman books that I've read, like Invincible. I could not put that one down. Walking Dead, when I've read those compendiums, I read the first 2 before I started buying the singles on Comixology years ago. Couldn't put those down. Those are great. There's just something about his writing, and at least the way he structures his trades too, it pulls you through the book so fast, or makes you not want to stop reading because there are no chapter breaks. Like, same thing with The Walking Dead. In these Outcast volumes, he doesn't put in the single issue breaks, with the covers or anything. Like, I can kind of guess where each issue starts and ends, but it's not apparent. Like, there's not a major cliffhanger from, if there is a cliffhanger from issue to issue, in the book, it's just a page cliffhanger, and you want to make that turn instead of getting to a cover and being like, oh, you know what? I gotta go. I can do something else, or I gotta go somewhere else, anything like that. Like, literally, when I sat down to read one of these volumes, I read the entire volume and then maybe started the second one before I was like, I actually have to shut this off and go do something else. Go to work, go to bed, tuck my kids in, whatever it was. But I thought it was a really cool concept. So, great story. I loved it. Like, this is one I will recommend. And the fact that it is in a nice, 50-issue compendium out there for people to just pick up and buy, I think is a great thing. So if you can find that compendium on sale, totally gets my full-throated recommendation. It was a great story. I really liked it. So what is Outcast? Outcast is a story about a guy who has certain powers that he finds out on accident. The first trade makes you think it's angels and demons, and he's exorcising demons from people, and that's kind of what it presents itself as. But as the story goes on, you get Kirkman kind of pulling in this, not atheism, but just like, hey, what if this wasn't angels and demons? What if it was something else? And whether it is or isn't answered by the end of the book, but it doesn't matter because the story is told so well. This is not a blasphemous thing the way that preachers definitely, going against the grain, trying to rub people the wrong way. I'd say wherever you fall on the religious end of the spectrum, this is an engaging story that you would probably enjoy, and you could see points on either side for, I guess, supporting whatever you support, right? So it's kind of agnostic in that way. It's neither for religion or against religion. It's just like, we exist in this world, and here's something that is happening to people, and they don't really know what's going on either. There is a priest involved in most of the story, and he thinks, not a priest, but a minister, he thinks it's religious, and there are non-religious people involved, and they don't really think it is. And they neither say they are or aren't these entities that they're pulling out of people. So it's kind of like a invasion of the body snatchers with demons kind of thing, where these entities, these demons, whatever you want to call them, they invade people, and then there's a process through which they kind of take over their bodies. In the first couple of days or weeks, they are kind of what you would expect from like movies from, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Conjuring, or The Exorcist, right? They're kind of like snarling. They don't like bright lights. They're just kind of mean, that kind of thing. So that you encounter most of these things in the first couple of trades in that stage. Then you come to find out there's a later stage where they are fully formed, where the demon or entity takes over that person's body entirely and can assume their a personality to where you don't really know what's going on, or you know, you don't really know like that they're possessed or affected at all. So what our main character's powers are is like if he can touch somebody, he can feel that within them, and then if he touches them enough, at first it starts out with like beating people senseless, beating the demon out of them or whatever, and that's the exorcism. But eventually he learns to do it with just a certain amount of like a forceful touch as opposed to literally beating somebody up. So because you can't tell who's affected at certain points in the story, you have like this cabal of these entities, of these people that have been affected for a long, long time, trying to get more and more entities to come in. It all takes place in like a rural town in West Virginia, and it's really, really cool. So I loved it. You got multiple, you know, enemies for the demons or the entities. I think there's 3 different ones throughout the series, so that changes it up a little bit. Like you get one little victory, but it's kind of shocking and you're kind of horrified by how they got there. Then you get a second guy, and then he, you know, kind of, you know, he has his thing going on, and that was surprising. And then you get a third girl who comes in, and they're all basically like, somehow they're all organized to try and take over the world through something called the Merge. But what's kind of hilarious is it doesn't really exactly work the way they think, and that was a 8th volume surprise that I thought worked really, really well. So I thought this series was great. Kirkman's writing, as ever, I think it's strong. You know, it pulls you through the story, pulls you through. I loved reading Firepower when it was coming out, and this is something that I wish I was picking up as it was coming out. It would have been interesting to read in single issues. But all in all, I think the trade I experienced here, or if you read it in a compendium and as quickly as I did over a couple of days, you're going to have a good time. Paul Azaceta is the artist on the series. He does every single issue, and I've seen his stuff before, I think on Spider-Man The Gauntlet with Mark Waid, and his stuff was kind of interesting for a Spider-Man book, but his stuff here works. Like, it's kind of similar to Charlie Adlard, you know what I mean? Who's the other guy that works with Brubaker? Sean Phillips, similar to his style. The colors are beautiful, like they work. They're kind of this muted tone, and nothing's ever too bright. Everything's just kind of dull and gray, so that when these moments of light hit you with these experiences, it really pops out because it changes the color palette entirely. And Paul Azaceta is kind of a dark artist. He loves the shadows, and that works for the story because these entities, they like the dark, they like the shadows, and they're kind of shadows themselves whenever they get pulled out of people. It's just almost like a cloud or a puff of smoke, this inky blackness that gets pulled out, and that's kind of what they look like in this world. So very, very interesting, very, very well done. No complaints, really. Like, I don't know why people aren't talking about Outcast. Maybe they just thought it was kind of a ho-hum series or something, or didn't go anywhere. It wasn't as long as Invincible. But, I mean, 50 issues, almost 50 issues, nothing to sneeze at. And to have it available in a little compendium, like, that's something I'm going to think about picking up to hand to people, because I do recommend this. This is pretty good. So, yeah, those are my general thoughts on Outcast, the entire series. So let me know what you thought of the book down below in the comments. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.